Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. How no-fault eviction orders are upending family life. Get one through the door and you only have 2 months to find a new home.
It came to a point where I almost begged on a humanitarian basis, could you let me stay till she delivers the baby? They said no.
We'll hear from the homeless charity shelter on their concerns. Also tonight, it's officially a heatwave and the sun continues to shine. There's an amber warning in place. Remembering a young North Yorkshire police officer more than 40 years after he was murdered. And the men talking grub at Pie Club, cooking their way to good mental health.
And after a grey start, it has been a fine and warm day with plenty of sunshine. The heat continues through the week and into the weekend. I'll have all the very latest later in the programme.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for your company. Helpless and depressed. That's how one father in Yorkshire says he feels while he's trying to find a home to rent for his family after being issued with a no-fault eviction notice. Omar was told he had 8 weeks to leave his home while his heavily pregnant wife was set to give birth. But his story is not an isolated one. New research by the homeless charity Shelter says a no-fault eviction notice drops through the letterbox of an older private renter every 16 minutes. People who receive Section 21 notices have only 2 months to move out, and their landlords do not have to give a reason for evicting them. But a third of all private renters say the last time they moved, it took them longer than 2 months to find a new privately rented home. Our reporter Ollie Constable has our top story.
It came to a point where I almost begged on a humanitarian basis, could you let me stay till she delivers the baby? They said no.
Omar was weeks away from his third child being born when he was told he had to leave his rented home. The landlord said they were selling the house, meaning he was given a Section 21 no-fault eviction notice.
It was absolutely atrocious. I was really scared for various reasons because all the media attention that the renting market was getting. I was like, well, immediately it just stuck to me, oh, what do I do next? My wife was heavily pregnant.
Hey, brilliant, Pauline. Well done.
And with his wife's due date getting closer, he had to split his time between providing for his family and finding them a home. Omar has viewed about 15 houses and hasn't got close to securing a new place to live.
I saw a property in Waverley and I was told there was 19 potential tenants viewing the property, and I saw a list. And when I was told, you didn't get it, we're sorry, you didn't get it. And I said, why was the reason? They said the person who actually got the property offered 12 months worth of rent upfront.
And as he tries to find a new place to live, he's renting a house from a friend. But the no-fault eviction is having a huge impact on all of his family.
My wife went in early labour, and that was because she was under a lot of stress. I mean, it just makes me feel really helpless. But at the same time, as I said, I try my best for my family, as does everyone, and I just have to stay strong, because if I am not strong, I can see what happens. It just passes on to my wife and my kids.
Finding a new place to live in the current market is tough. With rents rising and a lack of available properties, the competition is high.
What we desperately need at the moment is more rented homes, and we need fewer landlords deciding to leave the market a bit. But again, you can't suddenly turn on the taps and get more homes built. If we can persuade more landlords to not leave the sector and to stay in the rented sector, then that would help in the short term.
The rental market is absolutely broken. You can't even secure a property on rent if you can't offer them 12 months of rent upfront, which just sounds ludicrous. It just sounds absolutely scandalous.
Omar is now spending his parental leave desperately viewing houses instead of bonding with his new baby. Ollie Constable, BBC Look North.
We're going to hear now from Puncham Bansal. He's a helpline advisor for Shelter. He says the charity is hearing from a large number of callers to its helpline about no-fault evictions.
We're seeing a massive issue, actually. Shelter, obviously, we operate a emergency helpline for people who are facing imminent eviction and also facing homelessness. And one of our biggest callers are for people who have received no-fault evictions. And unfortunately, there's been no let-up in the situation. especially with the cost of living crisis occurring at the moment. It is really becoming a growing concern for us.
The Renters Reform Bill was supposed to give more protection to tenants.
We're still campaigning hard to get the Renters Reform Bill in place. It was first proposed by the government back in 2019. Now that Parliament is back in session, we are campaigning hard to try and get it in place and give tenants the extra protection from the Renters Reform Bill.
In the case of the family that we've heard from, the landlord wanted to sell the property. They're within their rights to give 2 months' notice, aren't they?
Yeah, the landlord is within the rights at the moment, as things stand, to give a 2 months' notice. What Shelter would like to see is more security for tenants. So landlords, if they have got a legitimate reason to end the tenancy, then they can do that. However, at the moment, the Section 21, the no-fault eviction as it stands at the moment, gives a great power imbalance towards landlords. So if they want to end the tenancy, they don't have to have a valid reason why, and we would like to see that changed.
Pansham, thank you for your time. Next night, we're going to talk about the heat wave. Health professionals are warning that people should take care as temperatures have continued to rise this week. An amber heat health warning has been issued for Yorkshire, which means people of all ages could be at risk and there could be a strain put on the NHS. With temperatures above 25 degrees on 3 consecutive days, Yorkshire is already experiencing a heat wave. Abby Giola has been speaking to those most at risk.
As the temperature rises outside, the challenge for staff at Harcourt Gardens is keeping their residents cool. A fully air-conditioned building helps, but curtains are closed and time outside for residents is monitored.
Our more vulnerable residents at Harcourt are often compromised at this time because they don't realise, they know it's hot but they don't realise why, so it's very important we monitor them even more closely. We help them make sure they've got the right layers on, we're making sure that they are drinking well, and we're also moving them around the building and into different environments so that they are cool.
Outdoor activities are in the shade and hydration is key. To avoid overheating, non-alcoholic fizz and fruit juice are in plentiful supply.
Well, we have cold drinks all the time. These are always available. Yeah. We have a cold cupboard at reception where we can just go and help ourselves.
Well, I have to sit down. I just get very tired and hot.
I don't like it too much. I'm 88 pretty well now, so, you know, it's a bit much.
It is tiring. You know, it takes a lot of your energy.
The UK Health Security Agency have issued an amber heat health alert. It means people of all ages could be affected, putting the NHS under strain. They're particularly concerned about the impact high temperatures can have on the over 65s.
And that's really just to remind people to put in place any measures they have to just avoid harms occurring to vulnerable people such as the elderly or very young. In care homes, that can be just making sure that people are well hydrated or wearing appropriate clothing for the weather and staying out of the heat in the hottest part of the day.
This year we had the hottest June on record, followed by one of the wettest Julys. Temperatures this week are around 10 degrees higher than average. While some of us may enjoy the unexpected warmth, it can cause problems for people with chronic conditions.
We do see an increase in patients contacting us on hot days, particularly if the hot weather is prolonged. And there is a risk that particularly those patients who are most vulnerable will suffer the consequences of excessive heat if they don't take the necessary precautions. So it's also important that we look out for our neighbours, our relatives who are in the at-risk groups.
The heatwave is expected to continue into the weekend with the amber alert in place until 9 p.m. on Sunday. Abby Giola, BBC Look North, Harrogate.
Keely joins us to talk a bit more about this. Keely, just put into context how hot it is at the moment for this time of year.
Well, it's not unusual to have bursts of heat in September, but what is unusual is the length of time that the heat will continue. So we look back to 2021 and we got 3 consecutive days when temperatures were in the high 20s. But we have to look as far back as 1999 to get 5 consecutive days. We are, though, way off beating the September record, which was 35.6 at Bawtry.
you've been talking to a Yorkshire family who are in Europe. We've seen extreme weather over there. We've had the extreme heat before the summer and now flooding. Tell us what they've been saying.
Yeah, so Storm Daniel has brought intense rainfall, catastrophic flooding. Just to put it into some kind of context, they had in one day the rainfall that London would get in an entire year. I've been speaking to Sarah Clark, who's in Skiathos.
It's like nothing I've ever seen. The rain was horrendous, and thunder and lightning for like 24 hours. It didn't move at all. It was just cracking all the time. So you just couldn't go anywhere. The roads were like rivers. It was just really sort of scary at times. It was so loud and such a lot of water in such a short period of time.
And how has it affected your holiday? What advice have you been given?
Well, very little advice, really. We keep getting official messages from Jet2, which sort of tell us that they are dealing with the situation. They can't do anything but wait for the next message. No flights are going, because we were due to fly home today. No flights are going. And at the moment, that's all we know. We're just literally going from sort of every few hours to every few hours.
And it does look like in the next 48 hours there could be another 200 millimetres of rain. Then that storm system will move away and it could start to affect parts of North Africa over the weekend.
Gosh, and closer to home, how long are we going to see this temperature, these nice temperatures for us for?
Yeah, high 20s. It looks like all the way through this week we could be getting 28, 29 degrees. For inland spots, it's much cooler along the coast. But these temperatures could last all the way through the weekend as well, Amy.
Keely, thank you. And we have just heard that Jet2 have cancelled all flights from Leeds Bradford to Skiathos until next Wednesday. Next tonight, 41 years ago, a police constable was fatally shot by multiple murderer Barry Prudham. Today, a memorial plaque's been unveiled near Harrogate in memory of PC David Hay. He was one of 3 people killed by Prudham, who in 1982 sparked one of the biggest manhunts ever seen. The special plaque has been funded by the Police Memorial Trust. Phil Connell was there to see it for the first time.
Police Constable Hague had many plans for the future. And I'm sure that some of those plans were running through his mind on the 17th of June, 1982.
It's 41 years since David Hague was fatally shot in Stainburn Forest, and today the North Yorkshire policeman's bravery was formally recognised with the unveiling of a special memorial plaque, a service which took place near Harrogate with PC Hague's widow and 3 sons amongst the many invited guests.
We've been waiting a long time for this. For my late husband to have been recognised, you know, for what happened. And I feel that today it's done him justice today. I think it's lovely.
David Hague's killer was Barry Prudham, who in 1982 sparked one of the biggest manhunts ever seen. After shooting PC Hague, he evaded capture for over 2 weeks, and during that time, before shooting himself, he killed 2 more people, including a second police officer, Police Sergeant David Winter. In a separate service, a similar memorial will be unveiled for him tomorrow near Malton.
The women and the men, young and old, they risk their lives every single day trying to protect us. It actually upsets me, because I think of, you know, what happened and what the people are going through. It's just awful.
So is this a place the family will now visit often, do you think?
To us, it's where we lost our dad. He went to work and never came home. It's a beautiful setting now for us to reflect and think on.
And obviously having something set in stone like that is, they've got a QR code, they can just scan it and they can find out more information if they want. And just, oh yeah, that happened here.
Time heals, they say, you know, but he's still here in my heart. So I'll never forget him.
Amongst those attending today's service was David Hague's granddaughter Grace. Inspired by her granddad's story, she's decided to follow in his footsteps and enrol in the police force herself. Phil Connell, BBC Look North, Stainburn Forest.
I'm sure he'd be very proud of that. Let's have a look at some other stories coming into our newsroom now. 4 people have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a man in his 30s was stabbed to death in Barnsley. It happened in George Street in Worsborough around 11 o'clock last night. South Yorkshire Police arrested 2 men this afternoon on suspicion of murder. A man and a woman were also arrested on suspicion of murder this morning. 5 Wilko stores in our region will close next week, with 113 members of staff facing redundancy. It comes nearly a month after the workshop retailer went into administration. PwC, the administrators, have announced that stores in Morley and Wakefield will close their doors on September the 12th, followed by Corton Wood Retail Park in South Yorkshire, Dewsbury and Huddersfield on September the 14th. Work has begun to dismantle the temporary Emily Moore transmitter in West Yorkshire, which has been in place for 5 years. The temporary mast was built to allow engineers to work on updating the antenna of the main 1,000-foot tower near Huddersfield. It began broadcasting in 2018, but it's now been taken apart following the completion of the work. Quite a job to do that, isn't it? Let's talk now about the concrete crisis in schools. We do know more now about the schools in Yorkshire that are affected after the government published an official list. Across England, 147 schools have reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, or RAC as it's known, in their buildings, which is now at risk of collapse. 7 of those schools are in our area, but that number is likely to rise. Nicola Rees has been looking at the list for us. What more do we know about the schools affected, Nicola?
Yeah, well, first off, it's not a complete list. It is being updated all the time. And these are schools in our area that contain that kind of concrete, but it's full of holes. It makes it lighter, it makes it cheaper, but we now know it makes it a lot weaker and at risk of collapse. So you've said 7. 2 of them have been forced to delay the start of the new school year. So this is the first week back to term. They can't even open their doors. They're closed. They are Holy Family Catholic School in Keighley and Scorby School in Scarborough. Now, we heard from this school last week. They're close to 1,000 pupils, and the head teacher there saying he is facing a crisis worse than COVID. On top of those 2, we've got 3 schools where pupils are still managing to receive face-to-face teaching. They're Abbey Lane Primary in Sheffield, Woodkirk Academy in Wakefield and Batley Girls High School in Kirklees. They're new to this list today. They have managed to put in urgent structural safety measures, poles holding the ceilings up and so on, so that they can at least use the affected classrooms. We spoke to the local MP in the area earlier on today, and she's just been talking about how it's caused huge disruption during the first week back.
This clearly hasn't happened overnight. We're talking about problems within schools that have been going on for years, if not decades. And, you know, it can't happen that the day before kids are meant to go back to school, suddenly they're told you might not be able to go back to school. The children and young people in our schools have been through enough over the last few years, and this is just another catastrophe that is potentially going to have an impact on our young people, and it's just not good enough.
So that's the 5 schools. We've got 2 more. These are in Bingley. We knew about these already, actually, but for some reason they're not even on the government's official published list today. They're Cross Flats Primary and Eldwick Primary. They've lost 8 teaching spaces across both sites, but they are managing to keep operating so far.
Just want to pick up on what Kim Lebita there said. She said this hasn't happened overnight, so what has been done to rectify it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and we did ask the Department for Education. I'm afraid we only got a statement in reply. They say we are committed to rebuilding 500 schools over the next decade as part of the Schools Rebuilding Programme, and we are on track to deliver that. Just finally, a little bit of context. If you're a parent at home and you haven't heard from your school, that probably means it's unaffected. There are 22,000 schools, colleges in England, and there's only 147 on the list, so it's less than 1%. It's not a huge number. Having said that, there are around 1,000 schools who still haven't even checked if this material is in their buildings. They have until the end of the week to complete that survey and send it back to the government.
Nicola, thank you. Next tonight, we all know that food can bring people together, don't we? And that's exactly what the organisers of Yorkshire's first Pie Club is hoping for. The charity-based project is designed to help men who may be lonely or socially isolated and get them talking about their feelings, all while making delicious pies. Sounds like my kind of club, does that? David Rhodes has been to join them.
How are we doing, lads?
Yeah, not bad.
That's looking great.
Mighty pies start with fine, small ingredients. At this project in Leeds, men from the local community have been brought together to talk as they cook.
It creates a space where men can get together, they can converse about any topic they want to talk about. It's a place where guys can come in, have a cup of tea, make a pie, have a chat together and do something fun for 2 hours a week.
For some of the club members, cooking has not always been central to their lives, but this new venture is broadening their horizons.
It's good for men's mental health, and it's great to meet all these new guys and make some pies together.
I use it as a means of getting out, socialising. I've also learnt how to make pastry. Never been able to make pastry, so that's good. And something to look forward to on a Thursday.
This is the first in what the charity hopes will be a network of pie clubs across Yorkshire.
We have this sort of sense of camaraderie, the guys are talking to one another, chatting about what we're making, what we want to do next week, football scores, rugby players, all of it. Confidence levels seem to have increased, and we've got a real nice group of lads that are just here to have a chat and make a pie, just local guys making pies.
I'm meeting people and we can talk. It's friendly, and everybody's willing to help, because they've been doing it before, and so, yeah. And it's a bit of comradeship.
It's a right good environment, really good to get me out for a couple of hours, and it's really helping me to get involved with making food that I never made before with the company.
And with one final delicate manoeuvre, the finished product is complete. David Rhodes, BBC Look North, Leeds.
They look delicious. Send them our way. Right, we're going to talk showbiz now. The Yorkshire crime drama Happy Valley has won Best Returning Drama at the National Television Awards. The BBC series, created by Sally Wainwright, was a double winner for actor Sarah Lancashire, who also picked up a special recognition award.
Very few professions where you walk down the street and somebody says something nice to you simply because you went to work. So it's lovely that it has been received so well.
You have no idea what it's like to have so many lovely things said about you.
She's fabulous, isn't she? To the big screen now. Hollywood A-lister Hugh Jackman has been spotted enjoying all that Yorkshire has got to offer on a recent holiday here. The Wolverine, or if you prefer Greatest Showman star, was seen in the Yorkshire Dales, then having a leisurely walk down the Leeds-Liverpool Canal near Skipton. And finally, there he is, a cheesy snap with the Courtyard Dairy staff near Settle. Oh, it'd have made my holiday if I'd seen Hugh Jackman in the Dales, I tell you. Now, with those hot temperatures set to continue this week, it is a good time to find a lovely shady spot to sit or a cool dip in a Lido. Beth Parsons has been out and about across Yorkshire, finding out how you have been making the most of this heat.
A paddle in the River Nid. That's one way to cool down.
I'm going for a splash in the river to cool off. I'm not going back to school today, I'm going back tomorrow. That's great. I'm going to go swimming.
Then there's Lido, popular with ducks, swimmers and picnickers.
This is called the Lido Ladies Group, and we meet twice a week. Some of us opted out from the market today because it was so hot, and then we decided to meet down by the river because it's cooler down here than it is on our deckings at the caravans.
Wonderful, it's an absolute bonus. We love the sunshine.
Come on in, guys. A little further along the river, it's more in fashion to float rather than frolic.
Quite old, these boats, they're about 50 years old, but we look after them, well maintained. People get a lot of enjoyment going up and down on them.
Where did they come from originally, 50 years ago?
They were built in that building just behind.
How do you feel about the summer arriving just a little bit later than the summer holidays?
I know, yes, it's come just as I'm going back to work, but it's been beautiful. We've enjoyed going on the boats. It's their first time on the boats as well. They sat very lovely, and Abel absolutely loved having a life jacket on.
Can you tell me what that is down there?
It's a boat.
For the slightly more water cautious, you can still enjoy the river from afar and opt for a pint to cool you down instead.
Have you ever been on the boats?
No, I tried to get him to go on the boats today, but he wouldn't go.
I've taken on an official day on the sick because the weather got past 28 degrees. We're just having a quick pint at Wales End.
Elsewhere, the market traders of Leeds had to focus on fish.
What we do is we put on layers of ice, obviously, which it sits on. That keeps it cool for about 2 or 3 inches above. And about every 10 minutes, we do squirt really cold water over the top of it to stop it drying out and to retain the temperature.
I'm like working in this weather because when the weather like this, then we go to more customer.
Mud, mud, glorious mud. Nothing quite like it for cooling the blood.
And the animals of the Yorkshire Wildlife Park in Doncaster have had a helping paw or 4 at keeping cool. Whether you're on 4 legs or 2, it's clear that in this part of the world we know a thing or two about enjoying a bit of unexpected sunshine. Beth Parsons, BBC Look North.
Oh, so many lovely bits in that. I love the starfish from the polar bear.
I love the fact that that guy's on an unofficial sick day.
Not anymore. Hope his boss isn't watching.
And it has been lovely today, and that weather is going to continue. But let me just show you a couple of pictures from the sunset last night. The first one in Castleford, really bright orange colours here, and that's because we've got Saharan dust. A big plume has come up from the Sahara, and the dust particles make for very vivid hues at sunrise and sunset. So thanks for those pictures. Keep your pictures coming into the Weather Watchers page. You can also get us on social media, Twitter, on Instagram, Keeley.Donovan. So yes, the heat continues for the rest of the week. It's also becoming increasingly humid as well. So I think by night it will become a little bit more uncomfortable over the next couple of days. It is going to start off on a bit of a grey note for some of us tomorrow, but then another very warm and sunny day for most of us. A little bit of that coastal mist may linger through the day. And it's warm, well, because of the position of the jet stream, but also it's settled because of high pressure. And it looks like these temperatures in the high 20s will last all the way through until the weekend, or through the weekend as well, before a breakdown and something a bit more typical returns for next week. So this is the satellite picture from earlier. We've had quite a bit of high cloud developing actually, and that's probably what stopped the temperatures getting much above around 27 degrees this afternoon. And I think we'll see low cloud, mist and fog developing in some spots overnight. We may even get the odd shower or thunderstorm just skirting up the Pennines. And I think towards dawn, that cloud, low cloud in the east will become a bit more extensive and start to pull inland. But it will be a warmer night compared with last night. Temperatures dropping back to around 15 or 16 degrees. Let's have a quick look at those high water times at 10:22 in Filey and at around about 10:15 in Scarborough. So the low cloud mist and fog will burn back to the coast tomorrow. Another glorious day, plenty of sunshine. It may be that that coastal mist returns at times along the coast. It's always going to be a bit fresher along the coast, but inland we could get up to around 28 degrees, Amy.
Got a sore throat. Don't think I'm going to be very well tomorrow.
Well, you have an unofficial sick day.
Unofficial sick day. I'll be with the Lido Ladies Club in Knaresborough. That's it from us. Good night.